Hello,
Hello.
Tenek. Tenek, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you.
That's good.
Excellent. Let me open this chat in its own little window. Pop that out. Perfect.
Hi, Fire
Oh,
King.
Fire King's here.
Yep.
Wonderful. I love that. Let me turn off this full screen camera. We don't need that anymore. Okay. Wonderful. We're doing great. Hello, Ahmed. How you doing? Very happy to have you here. Ahmed Hassan, Spinal Cord Sword. Okay, what was I looking up? Probably episode descriptions.
Yeah.
1 minute ago is crazy. What happened? Hello, kinda loner.
Oh.
Eric, I'm sorry you had to deal with all those ads. I didn't put them there. I just gave them permission to be there. Okay. Never caught me live? Well, I only do it once a month or so. So congratulations, last Sunday of every month. Get here at 11 a.m. Central.
Yep.
All right. Hello, everyone in the chat. Happy Trans Day of Visibility and happy Easter. Welcome to Anime Club. My name is Explanation Point, but I'm sure you knew that already. We've got Fire King and Tenek here with us today to talk about a very highly requested anime, Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. This is one that I had never seen before Thursday this week, and one that I've heard a whole lot about. I know it's very well loved. So I was excited to get into it and was thoroughly unimpressed. What about you two?
I was
Should I go
rewatching
first?
second.
You can go first.
Yeah, I was rewatching it for the second time. I think closer to third or fourth. This time with a lot more animation under my belt. A lot of the things they were doing, which was fun.
Yeah,
I
that's
got up to
something.
episode 11 before started. Started last night, trying to do other stuff.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad.
Yeah, same for me.
Let me see. I might have the.
Cool. Fire King's gonna see he might have the. Tenek, what did you think of the series?
Right, so I've never seen the series before the start of this month. And I think I like after watching the entirety of it, I definitely get the reception it has, both the positive and the negative, because I think they fundamentally agree on the nature of the show, which is that it's this kind of zany episodic series that's kind of like a Cartoon Network show if it was obsessed with
Yep.
sex.
Everything Trigger is known for.
So I mean, I liked it. I found it entertaining enough, but I would definitely agree with anyone who thought it lacked substance
Yeah,
and was
absolutely.
disappointing for that reason.
This is a show that was aggressively not made for me.
Yeah,
And that's totally fine.
for any kind of analytical mind, I guess.
I honestly can't really say it does have really any same. It's meant to be really.
You're still breaking
Zany.
up. I can't understand you.
Give me.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I heard of it, but I don't remember what it was about. Style's pretty cool, but that's about all I know. Yeah, that is the one thing that makes me very happy that we have Fire King here. Fire King, who has a lot of animation experience, a lot of 3D modeling experience. Someone who can probably get into a bit of the nitty-gritty and details about all of the absolutely gorgeous animation that this show has. Because that is its strong point. 100%.
Yeah. This a lot better now?
I can understand you now.
For now,
Okay,
yeah.
I think my headset is starting to finally break down.
Could
So
be.
I'm back on my Logitech mic.
All right. Well, that's working.
Yeah. So yeah, I worked all night. I'm up right now. Yeah, I was binging the whole series trying to get back up speed. I got to episode 11. I remember at least the first half. Second half, I think, is just cap, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's been fun to just rewatch it all and see all the small little animations now that I can notice them a bit better. Still kind of impressed that the history behind that too, considering it's also by the same studio who now is Trigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love the history behind it. I think they got the rights to it too, but I forgot any word on if they're doing another season or not.
So they got the rights. The way the series ends.
Oh, of course.
Speaking of a second season.
One of those things. And then there's the leak of the magazine, which it was a poster cover. Apparently someone who did work on the show made it, but I'm not sure if it was made for like a promo thing, or if it was, I can't remember, or if he just made it for fun.
Mm-hmm. No, I've never heard of that. What kind of poster cover are we talking about? Just a season 2 announcement?
It was basically like season 2. It was like it had Panty in the front with I forgot what if it was a gun. It had knee socks and a Scanty. Scanty had, I think one of them had a chainsaw, if I remember correctly. And it had a Garterbelt and briefs back too. And in the background you saw like a giant ghost stalking.
Neat.
It was, yeah. Sure there's some parables with that too. I just deep into it.
Nah, I would be really interested in reading the Wikipedia article of the summary of the plot of season 2.
If it ever comes out.
Wait, I'm not sure I understood you now, Fire King. Are you talking about like the plans they had for a story in season 2 before they like gave up on it many years ago?
Sec, I'm trying to find it.
Because obviously season 2 still has to come out. It's gonna.
I mean, they got the rights now. Trigger got the rights back. Here it is. I don't know why.
Loner says that the good old days of anime is when we don't understand what's good and what's bad. I love that take so much.
There you go. The most that's coming up now is fan art, but that seems to be the original image that circulated like right after the series came out and ended.
Like, sure, okay, Eric, we didn't have the constant isekai pandemic that we have now, but we had harems coming out every season, 2 or 3 of them.
I mean, for every one isekai, there's always something good. Actually, wait, I can't think of a good isekai this time. The one I'm thinking about is the video game one.
Show the chat what we're talking about with this poster, because it is pretty cool. It's a very low-res image, but that's okay.
It's the best I could find. Like, I think it's almost been scrubbed. Everything I'm finding is now fan art of the poster, which is not that one.
Okay. So this is the poster that Fire King's been talking about, which, incredible.
Forgot the origins of it, and I can't find a better thing of it. And every time I search, it brings up fan art.
Okay, let's get my face off screen, and then get my face back on screen.
Oh, I got a couple options to suggest.
Okay. So the problem with this show, when it comes to Anime Club, which is something that we've talked about in the Discord a lot, is that it's very episodic, Monster of the Week style fare, which is gonna be very difficult to talk about on an episode-by-episode basis. If we don't do it on an episode-by-episode basis, we're gonna talk for 30 minutes. And if we do, I doubt we're going to make it to an hour and a half. So this is going to be a short one for everyone in chat.
Especially considering that each episode is only like 15 minutes and they're each one split into 2.
I mean, I guess you can think of it like that.
Each one... Huh? No, the episodes are normal episode length, like 25.
They're normal episode lengths, but there's 2 parts to it. Each episode has 2 different parts, kind of like a Western cartoon.
Yep,
is what I meant. I am somewhat sleep deprived. Pardon my English not being.
No, you're fine.
It's fine.
Um.
Yeah. Can I just add something to that? I think the issue might not even be that it's episodic so much as that I don't know, I guess like all the characters are not exactly deep and the episodes don't tend to introduce newer characters who have much to talk about.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I could argue with that with the zombie one, but we'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm. No, like the show has 2 or 3 very interesting episodes. It's definitely not afraid to take risks, and some of those risks have the potential to pay off big time. I don't think any of them are particularly impressive, but I definitely appreciate what the show was trying to do, and the times when it deviates from that formula definitely shine in when compared to the rest of the show, I should say.
And can you say now what you have in mind? Like which particular episodes?
Let me see what episode it was. It's not that one. There we go. It's Vomiting Point.
Oh god, that was just... the art style change on that one was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to it when we get to it.
Vomiting Point was the good one. Then there was the bottle episode, and the one where it was just 3 small clips of Chuck. I appreciate that a lot, but I think only one of them worked.
So even in the Chuck episode, you only liked 1/3 of it?
No, I didn't like any of it. It was all bad.
I don't like the Chuck if I remember correctly, the Chuck episode.
Would you say that?
Oh, and the absolute gall, the absolute gall of putting a recap episode, like halfway through or at the very end of an episodic Monster of the Week series. How dare you?
Oh, Nothing to Room. Yeah, then I was right. That was the recap episode. The first half of that one was pretty interesting, though. It didn't really lead anywhere, but it was interesting.
Sure. Like, all the usual arguments for why they have to have recap episodes, that's fine. I'm sure they didn't want to do that, and they had their reasons, but God. Whew, that made me steamed. Okay.
I mean, in their defense, it is only 1/3 of the episode.
Yeah,
instead
fair
of
enough.
1/2.
All right. I say, because this is going to be so hard to talk about episodically, we just go around talking about the characters for one. And then we talk about the characters, the music, anything else that anyone wants to bring up, and then we go back and talk about the specific episodes that we want to talk about. How's that?
Sure. Do the music last, though.
What?
Let's sure. Let's do the music last, though, because it's one of the best parts of the series.
Okay. First off, chat. Is there anything that you would want us to talk about during this anime club? Feel free to just leave it in the comments, and we'll get to it at an appropriate point.
Well, the chat, but okay.
No, the comments. Leave it in the comments. I'll see it in a few weeks.
Oh, okay.
I got it up too.
So we should start with the title characters, Panty and Stocking. And personally, I think that this premise is absolutely perfect for the kind of show that it's wanting to be. You've got 2 angels who are not at all angelic, going about killing random old monsters out in Tokyo, or specifically not Tokyo, as the case may be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fire King, what do you think of our protagonists?
Honestly, speaking from character standpoint, they're pretty solid base, in all honesty. The priest is always funny, unfortunately, to some extent, even though some of his jokes
We'll get to
aren't
Garterbelt
really
in a minute.
Yeah. Brief is an interesting character to kind of have in the mix.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to Brief in a minute. What do you think of Panty?
But yeah,
and
just
Stocking?
focusing on them. Sorry. Panty's character is like the only one that really has an arc, and even then, it's not really a big arc.
It's a very strange.
And Stalking, and Stalking is basically just an unmovable wall until the last episode. Her character never changes really, except for her one panic attack, and I think it was episode, was it 3 or 2?
God, Catfight Club and Pulp Addiction.
You mean when she gets mad?
Yeah, it was 4. I was off by a couple.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, that's like the closest we ever get to her character actually changing. Well, it was 3. No, it was 4, and it was 9. Yeah, it was 4 and 9 are like the only 2 where she actually gets more focused. Kind of weird for 9.
Tenek, what did you think of Panty and Stocking, the characters?
I'm not sure. I mean, I feel a bit odd. On the one hand, I feel like what you said is right. They are the perfect kinds of characters for the kind of show they wanted to make. On the other, I feel like there's like a couple of imbalances that exist between them, mainly in the fact that Stalking's gimmick is liking sweets, but Panty's gimmick is liking sex. But obviously, the show is a lot more focused on sex jokes than sweet jokes, or I guess just food jokes, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So it feels like Panty is somehow the mainer character, even though, at least for most of the series, they're supposed to be kind of equal. Really, that was the impression I had.
Well, I think that kind of works to its benefit, though, because the entire thing, in a way, is working up to the reveal after the credits of episode 13 that Stalking was a ghost or a demon the whole time. So
that's how you understood it?
De-emphasizing Stalking's role through the entire series, I think...
That's a bit of a spoiler for an old show, but it's also, if you look into the history of the people who are working on it, a lot of the other company, I believe it was the company, I can't remember what it was, but one of the backers behind it, I forgot which one, is known for doing these spoof endings. Like another example was, I'm not sure if they worked on it, or if just another good example was Good Luck Girl. At the end, it like sets up a whole nother season, stuff like that, but it was never greenlit. So it's kind of just the same thing where it's like, oh, it's a spoof ending, like all of this progress and all that, just for a joke thing. I mean,
no, I was definitely even that wondering whether or not that was serious. But I feel like the series is better for it.
I mean, if they will probably continue on with it if the season 2 ever gets made, or they might just go back to episodic if it does. And both ways, it could be just funny as heck.
Absolutely. What do you mean, a spoiler for an old series?
I mean, you did kind of just like say the last episode's plot twist.
Fire King, this is Anime Club. Why is anybody here if they don't want to talk about the show?
Fair enough. Remember,
we just like your videos where you don't spoiler anything.
Just remember, I'm a bit sleep deprived.
Honk shoe. Okay. So Panty and Stocking, I think they are incredible protagonists for this kind of show, because like we said before, this has that sort of Invader Zim energy where it's got the late 90s, early 2000s Cartoon Network vibe of being random and high energy and colorful and crass, except that in this show they were allowed to say fuck, and so they did. So having the protagonists be angels, for one, I think was a brilliant move. The character designs of them are very good. They're colorful, striking, very elastic and stretchable, which works very well for this kind of show, if you know what I mean.
Only during the more cheapy parts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is practically 90% of the show.
Yeah, but like you look at Panty, and you see her poses on the posters, you see her lounging around on the couch, and you can tell exactly what kind of character this is just by looking at her. And the same thing with Stalking. She has her goth color palette. She has her deadpan expression constantly on. They're both very cute, and I feel like it would be very easy to make fan art of them, which I think is important for a show like this.
You mean that it appeals to fans on that kind of just basic level of design?
There's that, and also it seems like it would be a lot easier to replicate than a more traditional anime style, like what you get in the Vomit Point.
Or like some of the more serious anime.
Yeah, like
two characters.
Gurren Lagann, for something by the same studio. Gurren Lagann was Gainax, right? Not Trigger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Gainax, but Gainax turned into Trigger.
I know, but just for semantics' sake.
Yeah.
So, like, everybody knows Studio Gainax, Studio Trigger, they are made for incredibly high-quality animation. That's what you get from these folks. Lively and energetic, in a way that no other studio really does. Like, you watch a show move, and you say, that is a Trigger show, that is a Gainax show. And I think that this just shows a lot of the range that Studio Gainax can reach. Because you watch something like Kill la Kill, and it moves in a very similar way. The animation techniques all, like... I've never sat down and watched Kill la Kill all the way through, but from the GIFs I've seen and from the parts of the show that I've looked at while my roommates were watching it, it just has that very lively and fun energy to it. And this show is sort of the extreme end of that, where it's incredibly cartoony. They don't seem to care much about staying on model, but they can also do a show like Gurren Lagann, like I mentioned before, where it's a lot more traditional. It still has that fun energy to it, but they aren't going all out on that Cartoon Network style, like we mentioned before. And I just think it's interesting to see the studio have that range, because you see a studio like, let's say, Silverlink or A1 Pictures, and all their shows look more or less the same, which makes sense. They're the same people making them. And I just think it's fun to see a studio that has this much diversity while still having that very clear identity.
I've noticed how their styles kind of changed over time, and I think there was one time when they did I don't mean to go too off topic, but when they did the Star Wars, like the animated Star Wars things on Disney, I think they had two shorts, not just one. One that was more realistic, and one that was the classic Trigger style. And generally speaking, that's like, that one's when I think of now, like what Trigger's doing. They're pushing more for like the bright colors and everything, versus the other one that was a bit less saturated, more grounded.
For sure. And
this is like a great example of how they were starting going in that direction.
Mm-hmm. No, and like you can clearly see the influence of American shows on this. Like,
especially Invader Zim.
Yeah, Invader Zim and various Cartoon Network shows that all looked relatively like this in the early 2000s, late 2000s. Like, it looks very Codename Kids Next Door to me. But anyway, character designs, top-notch. Animation, top-notch. Everything that you would expect. How about we move on to Garterbelt now?
Sure.
Yeah, Fire King, chat, any thoughts on Garterbelt?
He is a weird character to talk about.
No,
he's a black
you can
guy
speak freely here. This is a safe place.
He's a black guy in Japan, and he's the classic priest stereotype that he's into. He's into men in general, but but like the only focus is on that. Or like a brief and like one robot from the auto Transformers parody they did, that kind of suggests from the voice actor, at least on the English dub, that the guy's in his teens or young adult phase. So it suggests that he's more into younger guys. I'm not sure how the sub did it, but yeah.
Yeah, Tenek.
Yeah, I mean that's right. I don't think it's very subtle, especially I think in the OVA shorts where he looks after guys, and specifically after young men to have sex with. But anyway, I think one thing that kind of surprised me about Garterbelt is how, I don't know, unshaken he is by his sexual habits. Like before I watched this show years ago, I would expect like Garterbelt would be some kind of contrast to the sisters who are kind of unashamedly sinful, let's say, and then he would be the one that's doing it, but kind of regretfully.
Sure.
But instead, like he doesn't have a problem, like in the episode where Brief, how would I say it, consumes the sisters, and like Garterbelt acts in like a creepy way. That kind of surprised me.
Oh yeah, the Vor episode.
Yeah, the Vor episode. That's the word.
God.
Let's not worry about the Vor episode. That's one of the ones I didn't pay very close attention to. I will say right up, I guess not right up front, we're half an hour in, but I will say right now that I spent a lot of the time watching this show after the first few episodes, organizing some cards for a new trading card game I got into. So it did not hold my attention particularly well.
I was doing side stuff, and since I already like hard binged it, it was just kind of like a memory refresher.
Chat, Mariah says that she is going to vacuum, so if that's disruptive to you all, let me know. What about the weight gain episode? Yeah, there's a weight gain episode. We don't worry about that.
We'll get to that.
We will get to it. So Garterbelt makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree there.
Let's talk about the good parts of Garterbelt's character, because while he is like a sassy Bible quoting black man, and that is not exactly a great stereotype to be playing into, if we just take that stereotype as something that exists, I think he's one of the better ones, at least when it comes to comedic value. His attitude contrasts Panty and Stalking very well. His character design contrasts Panty and Stalking very well. You have that very blocky shape, the harsh face, the muscles, of course. He seems like the kind of person who would be put on Earth to put these two girls in line. I also want to point out that before I engaged with this show in any way, I figured Garterbelt was going to be the little green mascot character. Yeah, and then is Garterbelt intentionally uncomfortable? Yes, but I think the things that make me uncomfortable about him were not intentional. Or they were intentional, and the people making the show didn't see any problems with it, because racism against black people in Japan just isn't something that people talk about nearly as much as we talk about here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in America it's on the front. In Japan,
well, for very obvious reasons, right?
Yeah, in Japan they're racist against anyone. The culture.
Yeah.
Fire King, that's racist. But
like, it didn't come to my mind when I was watching the show. I didn't think of I didn't frame his characters in terms of being the black stereotype. So I think that probably has a lot to do with it.
And see, that's one thing about it, is that I feel like in Japan this isn't something people would think about, because they don't have the same history of what the hell is the very common word that I'm looking for? Discrimination. They don't have the same history of discrimination against black people specifically that the United States does. So in Japan, I hate to say it like this because it feels like I'm stereotyping the entire group of Japanese people, but I, in my relatively uninformed opinion, feel like there is a cultural attitude that sees black people as this more this very rare on the fringes kind of group. Like, in the same way an American would see a Baha'i person. Like, they exist, but there is a very strong chance I will never interact with one in my life.
Yeah.
That's the impression that I get about the cultural Japanese attitude toward black people. So it's a lot more common to see black people sort of mystified or thrown into these categories and archetypes in anime. Like, the Black Samurai is one that you get a lot because of that very famous story about a black samurai. I forget his name. But you get
I don't know either.
Afro Samurai, you get Samurai Champloo, stuff like that.
Cowboy Bebop. But most of those you could also kind of infer
Cowboy
because
Bebop.
of American culture due to Hollywood and the old TV shows and stuff like that.
That's a good point.
That's kind of where they get their ideas from, stuff like that, versus actually seeing those people. So a lot of their ideals come from like old Hollywood stereotype, especially of black culture, stuff like that. I'm
And-
sure Pulp Fiction's a big one too.
And considering how much this show clearly draws from American media, that's not surprising at all that their stereotypes about black people would be the same as American cultural stereotypes. Because it's not like if the United States and Japan had never had any cultural interaction at all, it's not like Japan would have the same views about black people that the United States does. This stereotype would never have originated organically in Japan of the strong, sassy Bible quoting black man.
No, that's 100% American stereotype.
Mm-hmm. Like, with the afro and the big lips, like, ooh, I just don't like looking at him.
So I gotta ask, for you guys, is it mostly the design, just like the way he's actually drawn, or is it more so the voice acting and I guess the behavior of the character that strikes you as being a stereotype?
The design
my
is
honest
bad on its own. Go ahead, Fire King.
In my opinion, though, I've seen worse blackface designs. I would say would probably be the closest thing.
Mr. Popo,
especially from Japan. So his really isn't the worst, especially with this cartoony feature where like everyone's
the cat out
like
real quick.
really. Go right ahead. Everyone in this is like really exaggerated, so he fits a bit better. I'm not saying it's appropriate, but I am saying his style fits a lot more than like in some other shows where I've seen like. I'm saying like his style, how he's drawn, fits a bit more with the show than like some other ones. I've seen some other Japanese shows that have black characters who look with like similar proportions, extreme sized, and for some reason it doesn't fit with the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm.
His fits at least.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was gonna say, because I missed most of what you said, letting Johnny out, that he's a very good example of someone who is drawn to stand out without sticking out.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, it's the character design itself incorporates a lot of elements that are not great. I mentioned the lips, I mentioned the afro. I think all of the body hair is probably also a problem. Like, that's not one I've seen too much, but it just doesn't sit right with me.
You also think it's a part of the stereotype?
I haven't heard a stereotype of black people having a lot of body hair, but the common disparaging racial thing in America is to say that black people look like monkeys and apes. So just drawing one being particularly hairy is
Well, I wouldn't say that's a black man thing. You could somewhat argue that it was like an older, like, to be a real man, you put hair on your chest, and like you get really hairy you have a lot of male hormones to have bigger, more testosterone kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what it feels like. That's an older stereotype that's not really used as much today.
Could be. Like I said, I'm not exactly calling it a stereotype. I'm just saying it doesn't sit well with me personally. But I'm a white man, so take my opinion how you will. Are afros a stereotype now? Fred Nasty says. Yes. Yes.
I mean, his entire character kind of comes off as like not like 80s disco black preacher.
Absolutely. And just for what it's worth, he pulls that off great. The voice actor in particular, incredible performance.
Did you watch the English or
English
Japanese?
dub, yeah.
Oh, of course. This is one of the few times where I could say like the English dub is probably well solid, even compared to the Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like for an English-speaking audience, they would lose a whole lot trying to watch this in Japanese, if for no other reason than you're dividing your attention between the animation and the dialogue.
There were a couple times I noticed stuff that it was probably because I just didn't have the settings right, but for like there were times they showed writing and it wasn't translated or stuff like that. That might just been because of how Crunchyroll's system is kind of trash.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
To make no comment on where I watched this, it was not on Crunchyroll. So,
I hope subs came up for like anything they had written, because for some reason Crunchyroll doesn't have that unless you subs on.
The version that I watched did translate the writing.
That's good. So that's one way. There's a couple things I missed. I do remember a while back on Twitter. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Someone posted like, if you watch the English dub, you miss out on the point where like in the zombie episode, the girls when they're hitting down the cat with the toys, when they're actually swearing in English, Japanese actors. And it's really funny because it's like a 1-for-1 compared to the English one.
No, I was wondering how much English was in the Japanese version.
I think for the most part, especially because like in the episode 3 when it's really realistic, the mom says we don't say those words, they aren't nice. I think they're actually swearing in English for most of the show.
Well, I watched it in Japanese. I would say pretty much most of the time when they're swearing, when they're saying things like fuck and bitch, that's the actual voice actresses saying the English words.
I mean, hello Scrub, nice to see you. I mean, to be fair, bitch is a Japanese word.
Well, I mean,
I haven't heard them say fuck so much, but they use it a lot.
There was, I don't remember what anime it was, but I do remember there was like this one anime where it's like this. Like they have this big black guy who's walking down the street. This is more of a realistic one, and you get this Japanese kid who's skinny as hell, probably skinnier than me, walks up to him and just starts swearing in English at him, and has a shirt that says like "fuck off." And this black guy like is American or something, and as he the Japanese guy tells him off, thinking he's being friendly, and the black guy just beats the shit out of him for just swearing in his face without understanding the difference between the actual word meaning.
Sure.
And I think that's also kind of a culture thing to some extent, how our media just kind of uses swear words as substitutes without really explaining them for other audiences.
Well, why would we?
Yeah, that's kind of the point. They're made for American audiences.
It's like a lot of the problem I had with Encanto is that it's a film that was made for American audiences that required cultural knowledge of Colombia to understand, but it didn't do an adequate job providing that cultural background. But if Encanto were a Colombian movie for Colombian audiences, I would not have had those same complaints.
Right.
Yeah, Garterbelt, end of story, makes me uncomfortable. Very well done example of a, we'll say, problematic character. He was extremely fun and funny, though. Chuck, anyone have anything to say about Chuck? At all?
He's Chuck.
Chuck.
Chuck's the green little mascot thing.
Hello, Master of Hippos.
The not invaders in, yes.
Chuck?
Chuck.
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 Chuck,
I found it.
I love the idea of giving Chuck 3 mini episodes to himself. I think that could have been very funny in a Tom and Jerry kind of way, it wasn't, but I love the idea.
Well, no. If you those three shorts are basically just parables and jokes and spoofs on a lot of the classic Americana movies.
You mean parodies?
Yep,
Okay.
Yes, they're parodies of Americana
They're
movies.
parables.
They're parodies. I am
No, it's all right.
not good at English.
I'm just imagining Chuck walking up to the Red Sea with a staff in his hand and just parting it.
I need that animated now.
Mm-hmm. Do it.
But yeah, like the title sequence is obviously Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3.
Sure.
The first one is classic Looney Tunes up until
I'm sorry,
the demon.
I don't mean to interrupt again, but I have to share the mental image I had of Chuck standing on top of the mountain with Isaac tied to an altar and a dagger in both hands, just ready to kill him.
No, it wouldn't be Chuck. It would be the Demon Sisters version of that, and Chuck tied up to the rock.
It's a parable about Chuck. That's not strictly speaking what a parable is, but God, can you imagine?
And come back just for that.
All right, something like Looney Tunes.
And what I meant to is actually it's like a Tom and Jerry. That's kind of like the first one. Chuck sees his nemesis. The nemesis shit out of him. Chuck comes back. Just repeats. And that's the first episode. Second one I can't really remember, but it's like
second one is some kind of horror movie, black and white.
No, no, that's the third one. Was the black and white?
Yeah,
one.
that's what I remember. I've got all the synopses.
I got them up too.
Here. Chuck to the Future, a trilogy of shorts starring Panty and Stocking's pet sidekick Chuck.
That doesn't specify anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because Chuck to the Future is split up into
Chuck
3.
Chuck to the Future is the one that's split into 3. So it's Inner Brief, and then Chuck to the Future 1, 2, and 3, and then Help We Are Angels.
Yeah. So
all of episode 10 is just odd.
Yeah, it felt like they were just.
When it comes to Chuck specifically, I also think he's one of the weakest designs in the show. He's just a little green guy.
It felt like they're trying to do the Invader Zim thing.
Like. I'm imagining Gurr from Invader Zim.
He kind of is, but the dog suit, if the floppy ears were zippers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting thing.
Yeah,
like the most interesting thing
what
that
his nemesis guy looks like.
He's a bit more iconic because of the color scheme, but like the most interesting thing I remember about Chuck is his transformation and the ending of Chuck to the Future, because what kind of parable that was doing, because that wasn't a horror thing, even though it kind of started like that. It ended with like some kind of like black and white film noir ending.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like
Chuck being just a little guy derogatory is very good.
Yeah.
Okay. We can be done with Chuck. Oh, Tenek?
I have something to say about Chuck. I found his lore kind of bizarre, because I think it's also in episode 10 where we learn both Chuck and his nemesis are controlled by some little demon people that live in their heads. That was just absolutely bizarre.
I missed that.
I expect
that. No, that was how it was ending, and why I said it was more film noir, because it ends with the two demon things. Chuck has a male one, his nemesis has a female one, and they end up doing it right in front of Chuck without his brain in, because when the demons leave, they just shut down.
Except
I
in the
missed
microwave.
that. I was looking at trading cards.
Yeah. Except in the microwave, for whatever reason. That was like the one exception.
Yeah. And then also, for some reason, he and his nemesis were also like in high school, and like the nemesis was the jock and Chuck was the loser.
I mean, it fits with the Demon Sisters vibe, how they're demons, yet they're also they're the high society, where the angels are basically like almost trash comparison.
Mm.
At least how they set up.
Sure.
Kind of.
Chuck, just a little guy, derogatory.
Yeah, moving on.
moving on to Brief.
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably the closest thing this show has to a normal character.
Sure, he's the straight man in the show.
He's a straight man in the show, in love with the you could argue, the main protagonist of the sister.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the most well-endowed kid at his school.
Well-endowed, you mean in the sense that he's smart?
No, well-endowed
he's
means
not
he has
smart.
a big penis.
Oh, yeah.
That's like his only real characteristic, like the last couple episodes. Oh, it turns out if he's hot, if you do the classic, I remember this from like Not Another Teenage Movie, you just take off the ugly girl's glasses and she's hot.
Yep.
But this time with the guy, you just pull his hair back and apparently he's really hot.
Mm-hmm.
Just the classic joke.
For sure. And he's not the mayor's son, the big business tycoon's son.
Yeah,
Something
like his
like
family's rich.
Mm-hmm. I have very little to say about Brief. He's not a comic relief. He's a straight man character, which is the equivalent of a comic relief character in a comedy, I guess.
He's a comic relief. No, he's a straight man punching bag.
Sure, he's a bit of a whoopee. Character
I was
design
taking
is
that
fine.
in the literal
like I
sense.
said, it looks very Kids Next Door.
I mean, he becomes kind of a plot device. That's where most of it.
Yeah, his penis opens the portal to hell.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess there isn't too much to discuss about a lot of these characters.
Yeah. Scanty and knee socks.
I like them.
Yep. Yeah, they're fine. They're your typical antagonist for a Cartoon Network show like this. They're the protagonists in reverse. The designs are fine.
Yeah, that's...
Their attitudes are interesting to me. I usually love a very loquacious character like Knee Socks. Just someone who's going to ramble effluviantly for ages and rub their vocabulary in everyone else's face.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that trope better when they use the words correctly or incorrectly.
I'm not. I need to spend more time reading a thesaurus and dictionary because I can't ever tell when they ever use a word wrong or not.
Love them rolling R's in the sub. Are you serious? Oh, you mean like the kurah?
Yeah.
Like the Yankee rolled R's?
Yeah, they say something like "Ruru"
Mm-hmm.
whenever they speak about like the rules and everyone needing to adhere to that.
Mm-hmm. No, that sounds very fun. But yeah, not too much to say about them. I feel like this is probably a good point, though, to bring up the criticism that a lot of people have about this show, which is that it doesn't know if it wants to be episodic or plot-based.
I have to admit, like, once I was finished, I was kind of surprised how just wrong that was.
Yeah, same here.
Like, it's 90% episodic. So aside from the last two episodes, there's maybe like one scene in episode 6 at the end that kind of sets up that stuff that isn't like addressed at all until the end.
I think it did a very good job towing that line between episodic and plot-based. Like, around the middle of the series, it said, hey, there are going to be recurring antagonists, and then they recurred, but in a way that didn't make you have to watch the entire series to know what was happening, and then the plot happened at the end. I think that's a really typical formula for that kind of thing.
Yeah, the plot thing in the middle is just the introduction of more characters, not actual plot stuff happening.
No, I think the show knew exactly what it wanted to do, and it did it very well.
Yeah. To be honest though, I feel like I would have liked if it was more half and half. Like if it maybe just gave a few more episodes focused on the plot stuff. Not because the plots themselves are anything amazing, just because I thought like the last two episodes were very fun with having this kind of absolutely ridiculous, over the top plot, about this dick monster that's gonna come out of hell and terrorize Gotham in heaven. And like they couldn't really do that for most of the series because most of the series is just single episodes that don't have any presence beyond their 12-minute space.
Other than like a couple of things that just set up things. So
yep.
the
No,
only
it's episodic with a through line. Which
episode 6. Ed is setting up. Episode 2 sets up Brief in the school, and then the next real big thing is episode 6, which sets up the Demon Sisters and whoever their boss is. And then that's kind of really it up until you get to episode. I think is it 11 or no? It's
12.
12. 12 sets off the series. 13. So in all honesty, if you count it out, it's half of episode 2, half of episode 6. No, all of episode 6, which was the animation on 6 alone is just. And then all of 12 and 13 are like the main plot episodes. Everything else is kind of a little bit extra.
That's it. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess like Mayor would be the last character. I don't know if we really would have anything to say about him.
Corset?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought he had really good energy. He reminds me of the Necro Dancer in Crypt of the Necro Dancer.
He was starting to remind me of Frieza as I realized who his voice actor.
Nope, didn't catch it. Never watched Dragon Ball.
Was it the same voice actor?
That's why I said
Okay.
No, like, again, by this point, I was totally uninvested in the show and mostly just looking up from my cards every now and again to see what was happening. But I thought he had a very good energy. I thought that just the cackling, not mad scientist, but like mad wizard lich vibe was very good. Hello, Leo. This is Anime Club. Welcome. Yeah, not much to say about him. Like, I know that we will often just dismiss a lot of plot stuff and say plot stuff happens, but that really is what goes on with Corset. He does plot stuff and then the series ends.
Yep. So, I don't know, is there any other... Oh, right, I guess we haven't talked about the music.
Yeah, Fire King wanted to save that for last.
because it's pretty good music. It's solid
Incredible.
all around.
It's the hell is his name? Hiroyuki Sawano, right?
I think the composer is called Takahashi or something.
Yeah, looks like no. I did think I saw Sawano's name in the credits.
The only thing, only real critique I have, and it's more of a funny thing, is apparently Panty and Stocking theme. No, not Panty. Scanty and Knee Socks theme is technically a free song that you can hear, and I think it was a Cartoon Network show. Forgot which one it was, but you can hear it. I think it was a Mad sketch. That's what it was. It was in one of the Mad sketches. You can hear it.
Why?
I'm not kidding. Forgot which one it was though, but I just find it funny that it's like the main beat of the song, but it's also that. I've been trying to find more music clips, stuff like that. My latest one that I'm still searching for is the second season for Mach, but I'm going off tangent. The music's amazing. I love the techno themes. Mm-hmm. I love if you pay attention to the lyrics. Kind of interestingly fits the characters weirdly as well.
Ah, yes, like the opening theme. Who could forget such riveting lyrics like "Panty stocking, panty, panty stocking"?
No, I more like their transformation. Knee Stalks and Scanty's theme is like "Love will always reign true," while Panty and Stocking is "Fly away." It's just kind of funny how that is kind of opposite. I'm not sure how to describe it. Doesn't really fit their characters. Just kind of funny for their characters, though, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we should also talk about the music video, which is thrown into episode 10. Yep. Episode 10 scares me. It's just so many different things. It's overwhelming. It feels like an episode of Pop Team Epic.
Almost. I guess if it was even more fragmented, then it might really be like Pop Team Epic.
Mm-hmm.
The song's really good. I do like one of the remix versions. My friend always says he likes the original better because of the beeping sound effect, which without the remix doesn't have it. So funny. Beep and play.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember the song at all. I do remember parts of the music video. I'm not against there being a music video in this show. I think that was another one of the very bold choices that kind of makes the show stand out. But why did it have to be in the same episode as Chuck to the Future and the Vor episode?
I guess because they're all really short episodes in comparison to the other ones.
I guess that makes sense. It's just, you throw all this stuff together? Really? You're gonna just concentrate all of that? The guy next team just wrote down a bunch of ideas and didn't really think about where everything went. Maybe. Okay. Anything else we want to say about the music?
Amazing themes, great mixing. I wish I could have bought their CDs if I could ever find them, because by the time I got into this series, these were long sold out.
Mm-hmm.
I like the theme that often plays while they fight, but to be honest, aside from like that and the transformation themes, I don't think much of the soundtrack stands out that I like it.
Yeah, I guess I don't really remember much else from the soundtrack, but I think that's more because those songs stand out so much.
We forgot to talk about the ending theme.
That one sucks. I hate it.
When you hear the full thing a couple times, you get used to it a bit better, but it's like cut down a lot full song.
I thought it was great.
Oh, it's really good. I love the rhythm and song of it.
Mm-hmm. And also the visuals are very cute, and I think the decision to use that art style with some fairly disturbing scenes.
I love them watching them about to be cut in half. Wasn't it? So it was one of those like electric wheel things that you see in like.
The seppuku one is the one that stands out to me.
Sorry, which one?
The one where they're committing seppuku.
Oh yeah, that one too.
No, I think the ending, the song itself is very cute and fun to listen to. The visuals are charming, and the decision about what to do with those visuals is very funny.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. All right, should we get into talking? Sorry, Tenek.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say I felt like the song for the ED at least was kind of low energy.
It was.
It didn't really feel to me like it fit the vibe of the show. That's maybe why it felt off.
I think that was an intentional choice, sort of a cool down after all of the frenetics of the show itself.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to me. It was just a cool down.
Mm-hmm. Should we talk about individual episodes now?
Yeah.
Okay. Toilet episode. Death Race 2010. The Turmoil of the Beehive. Sex in the Dotton City. Does anyone want to talk about that one? The one where Panty screens her porno at the Oscars.
That one that episode felt really weirdly disconnected from everything. I don't know why.
A little bit. It sort of felt like the series creators were flexing how much they were able to get away with. But I particularly want to talk about the ending of that one, where she goes up on stage and says, "Thank you. I have never been in a film before in my life. Also, neither has stalking." I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
He just throws her under the bus.
Mm-hmm. Like, after she went through all of this effort and expense to help her erase this ridiculous and self-imposed mistake, just, nope, not in the film. She's gone now.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got Catfight Club, the one where Panty steals Stocking's pudding. And that's the one I think someone in the chat mentioned the one. Yeah, the Little Red Riding Hood ghost. And that they don't know why it stuck with them so much, but they don't want to acknowledge it. Love the Johnny Bravo parody in the porn film. I did catch that, and it was very funny.
I did not. Like, what kind of parody is it, actually?
Well, the guy in the film just looks like Johnny Bravo.
Well, that explains another little fan comic I've had for a while.
Oh, do I want to know?
Let me see. It's not a comic. It's nothing inappropriate. It's not a comic. It's just like a little short picture of fan art. It's actually quite funny if I can find it. And yes, it would be appropriate for stream. It doesn't show anything appropriate other than maybe text.
It's a panty and stocking stream, man.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it. The other drive. So yeah, keep going and I'll look for that because it's going to be a while.
Okay.
Better.
Sorry, I was just checking some stuff on my phone. Here's one. Pulp addiction. The ghosts of vengeful sperm cause a shortage of tissue paper, rendering the men of Dotton City incapable of wiping themselves after ejaculating.
Oh god.
The opening and ending of this episode were both very good. Like, the pure white color palettes with the war metaphor.
The war metaphor sprinkled with a bunch of youth.
The script was incredibly tight and slick.
Well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
Lined up. I'm trying to do it.
It went hard and fast.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. Something penis. John Michael Tatum does voice the soldier. I'm glad he's getting somewhere. After I met him at MomoCon, I knew he was going places.
This was back in 2012 when we did that. I knew he was going places when I found him back in MomoCon a couple years ago.
No, one of my favorite tweets. I worked very hard with the friend I went to MomoCon with. After I took a picture with Tatum, I was like, I'm going to tweet this, and I want to tweet the funniest thing possible. And one of my favorite tweets I ever made was, I got to meet the guy who voiced additional voices in Ikebukuro Westgate Park today. Keep going, guys. I believe in you. Or something like that.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, since we're already on the topic of the sperm cell episode,
mm-hmm.
I feel like one thing I really got to give to this show is the creativity that they had when it came to figuring out ideas for these episodes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even putting aside any boundaries they had on the sex stuff, I feel like a normal person couldn't think up of making the sperms themselves the ghosts.
Mm-hmm. No, they did.
No.
They did a very good job being the kind of show they wanted to be. I feel like the writing room got together and said, "We're going to make a gross, provocative. We're going to make a gross and provocative Monster of the Week show." what kind of monsters can we make? And they're like, okay, we need a sex monster, we need a poop monster, we need a vomit monster, like all of these kinds of things. And then they did them. And then that's when the talent came out, and they said, okay, now how do we make this funny and interesting? And 50-50 on whether or not they did it. But this is one of the ones where they really knocked it out of the park, I think. The actual panty and stocking stuff fighting the ghost was whatever. I don't really remember it.
Speaking about that, how about, do you remember what happens when the ghosts get destroyed?
Sort of. Remind me.
It cuts to a different animation style where it's all like live action figures that they've made, not figures. They're like made out of foam.
Yeah.
And they blow them up.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought you meant the little sperm ghosts. But
no, I meant all the villains.
The main
of the
ghosts,
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, as someone who loves to make little figures, I really enjoyed all those like 5-second clips of watching these people's like lovingly handmade dolls getting exploded.
And then they did the same thing to Garterbelt twice.
I think they were in the IS for a con when they got the inspiration. US? US.
They were in ISIS? Sorry.
Too far.
I think.
This is when we just have 40 seconds of silence. All right.
I needed to break it somehow.
After the sperm episode, speaking of John Michael Tatum, and not speaking of sperm, Spice and Wolf remake, Spice and Wolf Brotherhood coming out.
Wait, it's a remake?
It's
I
a
thought
reboot.
it was like a sequel season.
No, it's not a third season. It's a reboot.
So might actually get on that train then.
I'm really excited. Which hopefully means we are getting the third season content eventually. Anyway, the diet syndrome. Stocking finds herself gaining weight and goes on an intense diet, but she only keeps getting fatter until she balloons into a giant. When the cause is revealed to be an obese ghost who refuses to diet, Stocking sets out for revenge. Upon defeating the ghost, Stocking returns to our original figure.
Like I was saying earlier, this is like the closest one of the few episodes we get to actually seeing another side of Stocking.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like she likes to eat sweets, that's her personality, until she starts gaining weight.
Yeah,
and
I just had a thought, tell me if I'm crazy. But let's go with the whole idea that the ending is not just like a joke twist ending for the sake of having a joke at the end. Let's go with the idea that it's actually canon. Is there anything of merit to the thought that Stocking enjoys eating sweets, which is a purely selfish and consumptive vice, whereas Panty, the angel, enjoys having sex, which requires at least 2 people, and there is an element of giving to it?
That would be one way to look at it, but in all honesty, when you look at it, you could say they're both just lustful for different things, because I mean, like, a great example of that was going back to the second half of episode 1, Death Race.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off with Panty doing it, but she's not enjoying it whatsoever because the other guy's just going way too fast.
Sure, but I think that only strengthens my point. I feel like she's not doing it for her partner's sake, but her partner is the one getting the enjoyment out of it.
She is
as
too.
an angel would do.
So are you trying to say that Panty is actually the one that's more altruistic?
I'm saying that, well, she's certainly not intentionally altruistic. I'm saying that sort of relates to the angel-devil dichotomy that they've got going on. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, tell me if this is insane.
Not really insane, just kind of weird. Mainly because of also episode 9.
Like, it's stretchy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, especially I have to admit because I didn't really read the last episode that way until this stream. I understood it as the real stalking went to heaven in episode 12, and now the one that came back in episode 13 was a fake.
Oh, that's interesting.
They could also pull that angle, and I think that would be a lot funnier.
I like that a lot. No, I just read the ending as a joke.
There's three ways you could take the ending depending if they actually do a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Option 1 is it's a joke. Option 2 is they play it straight, which could be funny, and be like, oh, she's actually corrupted or something. Or option 3 is it turns out that was the fake stalking, and he planned this all along. The main villain, who I forgot his name already. Corset. Played this. Planned this all along. Made a fake stalking. And kind of screwed over his own 2 henchmen to somehow goad into some weird ass plot for the next one. And the real stalking comes down to help save the day by the end. Something. It'd be a really weird thing. And in all honesty, depending on how they decide that if they do continue with the season, still not quite sure on that. It'd be quite funny.
I'm going to be completely honest with you, Fire King. I imagine you put more thought into what the second season plot is going to be than they have so far. I would be willing to bet.
In all honesty, they could pull this out to be like a full season thing where it's not episodic, it's serialized. Or option 2, the first episode could just kind of just be like the whole thing wrapping it up all at once, and then they just go back to episodic. It could go either way, really.
Yeah, a lot of freedom.
Pretty sure it was noted that the ending was a self-parody of Gynax endings, which are known for being abrupt scrub, which are known for being abrupt, out of left field, and awe-me unsatisfying. For shame.
I think that's what I heard too when I was comparing it to Good Luck Girl. It was just like what they were known for at the time, and they were just making fun of it.
Yeah, like I said, I just read it as a joke. I figured if there ever were to be a season 2, they would just ignore that happened. They
would ignore it that it happened, or make some reference to it and be like, "Oh, we're so happy we got that cleared up," and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
That would make it a joke
for sure. Yeah, diet syndrome. Not much to talk about there. I don't think it's one of Stalking's attempts at characterization, but we already knew most of it. There's a sequel comic. It's done straight. It's about Brief coming back and putting her cubes back together.
Okay.
Scrub says be nice to her, and it is National Trans Day of Visibility. So everyone look at Scrub and point and laugh at Scrub. Make Scrub very visible. All right. Yes, be nice to Scrub. Okay, fine. I will. Yeah.
I feel like the inflation episode is pretty up there in terms of the bizarre concepts, but
sure.
I feel like the episodes that really take the cake are only to come later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the inflation episode just isn't on my radar in terms of the strange things this show does.
Really?
Especially since it was exploring Stalking's character through the inflation thing, which is something I thought I would never say. Anyway, high school noodle.
God, this show's weird.
Dotton City High School holds a lingerie run in which participants must race in their underwear. The run is interrupted by a ghost who eats underwear, including Panty and Stalking's weapons, so Panty must resort to using whatever underwear she can find.
I don't think he ever eats Stalking's weapons. I think they just broke on him.
Yeah, because the episode starts with them needing to do maintenance. That they.
Yeah. But when it says Panty and Stalking's weapons are her.
Hi, Mikan.
It does say including Panty and Stalking weapons, but Stalking's weapons are her stalking, and that's not actually what happens. Her stalkings break because they're doing maintenance.
That's fair. I do love the premise of this episode. Like, let's get rid of the protagonist's usual way of solving problems is a great premise for an episode. Every time. And the idea that Panty has to run around trying to find other pieces of underwear to turn into guns, and like seeing all the guns she gets from different people's underwear, That was really funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't make the inference. Like, I think she fails to make the inference that Brief has a big dick
Yeah, fair.
at the end.
Yeah.
Pretty stupid.
Mm-hmm. I also didn't think about it.
That was the reference
Really?
there.
Oh, no, I get it.
I thought it was too obvious.
I understand. But I didn't get it while I was watching.
Next episode?
Yeah, Raiders of the Nasal Dark. Everyone's picking their
God,
noses all the time.
I hate that one.
Genius turns out to be a
I love
ghost
it.
intent on ramming a blimp into the moon using nosebleeds.
Yes.
Like, they never fully explain his plot why he was.
Could
Look,
they?
if you're seriously asking why, you need to stop. This is not the show that cares to answer.
Fair enough. So
It's not about why. It's about why not.
I love the
I
bit
guess.
where Stalking has a welding shield and is sharpening her swords. We should take a moment to talk about the visual gags. The visual gags are good. Sometimes.
it's just hard to focus on them because there's so much going on with the show at one point.
Yeah, that's true.
What's interesting is when I try to binge this versus when I try to binge like Bobo 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 Bobo.
Mm-hmm.
Bobo 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 feels overwhelming with all the gags, where this one feels at least spaced out enough that it doesn't over.
Sure. I loved Bobo when I was a kid. I do not feel like I would have liked this when I was a kid.
No, this
Really?
is not meant for a kid.
No, but are you saying
Trust
kids
me,
don't watch it?
Trust me, I ruined one guy's introduction to anime in this.
Is
What?
this even anime? Like, obviously, yes, but it's
That's why I said I
far on the
ruined their
Western
introduction.
side of anime.
That's why I said I ruined their introduction to anime.
Mhm.
But then again, I was introduced to anime with Ryo Kenshin, Pokemon, and Sailor Moon.
Yep.
Studio Ghibli.
Vomiting Point, episode 5.5. In the gloomy little town of Little Tokyo, neighboring Dotton City, a struggling office worker named Teirao is denied his chance to attend his young daughter's birthday party and forced by his coworkers to drink a mountain of beer, causing him to create a ghost made of vomit. Panty and Stalking defeat the ghost and decide to help Teirao with his troubles by giving him their autographs as a present for his daughter, who is an avid fan of the Anarchy Sisters. How have we not mentioned that their names are Panty and Stalking Anarchy?
I don't know. We probably should have.
Because, ironically enough, they don't really say what their last name is up until like a bit later, but it's always referenced.
Mm-hmm.
They're anarchists. It's like something that isn't really directly told until a later episode, but it's always inferred that's what their name.
Anyway, I always love it when a show takes the time to put the camera on a background character and show what this world looks like from the perspective of somebody who is not Panty and Stocking. And I feel like this is the one real experiment that Gainax did in this series that did pay off. I think they could have done a little bit more with it. But for the most part, this episode was very enjoyable. I felt for Teirao. His family was so believable.
Yeah.
Just watching the grandmother spill her soup was such a moment.
I mean, I felt very strange about this episode because there's a sense in which it's kind of following exactly off the I don't know, I guess the vibes of the previous ones, in that it's kind of like bizarre and just kind of crude in general, but also it's completely the opposite, where you are actually looking at a pretty grounded story about some guy's life
It's true.
instead of just.
I like how you mentioned that this episode is still bizarre and crude, because it feels like it takes the strangeness, the sexuality, the disgust of the rest of the show and plays it a lot more straight.
Yeah.
Where, like, yeah, this is a show about vomit and poop and sex. And that's really gross, right? Not in a funny way. This world is just grungy. If you are not panty and stocking, everything sucks for you.
Yeah, I guess so. If I understand you right, you're saying you can take this episode and then reframe the entire series. It was really just showing you the panty and stocking perspective.
For sure, like just giving another perspective, presenting another way of showing a program that has these elements being as prominent as they are. Where it just does it a lot more straight and doesn't have the energetic, colorful comedy elements. Like, this show is trying to take poop and vomit and sex and make it funny. And then they took an episode and they said, what if we didn't make it funny? What if we just had that? What if we just showed life sucking? And I think that was very bold and very effective.
Yeah. Art style definitely is a big part of that as well.
For sure. Like the washed out color palette, the sort of exaggerated grossness of everyone's faces, like with all the detail. Like, I like that they didn't just go for what has become a traditional anime A1 Pictures style. Although I guess this was a little bit before Sword Art Online, which is what really kicked off that style.
I suppose.
So it's I guess more of an exceedingly detailed, like, early 2000s style, which I'm not as familiar with because I was not watching anime at the time.
Right. Well, to be entirely honest, I don't recognize this art style from everywhere. Like, I watched that episode and it seemed totally unique.
Yeah,
something
of
they
course.
Just came up
that's what I'm saying, is that they took, they did not just make this a typical anime style. Like, they don't use the cel-shaded style of the late 90s, early 2000s, and they don't use the very clean A1 Picture style. They're doing this sort of, it reminds me a bit of, what is that movie? Tokyo Godfathers. Which I haven't seen. Satoshi Kon movie. Yeah. Legendary RQA knew exactly where I was going before I even said it. But yeah, it's sort of a Satoshi Kon style where everything is very detailed and a little bit grungy. And I think that really really makes the impact of this entire episode. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about how Gainax Trigger shows have this amazing range. Like, their team of animators can do just anything that they want to. Incredible group of artists. So, we all love this episode. Does anybody want to say anything that I haven't already said? Or that we haven't already said? Fire King?
No, not much on this one.
Chat? Any love for vomiting Point? Any hate for vomiting Point?
I remember when I first watched it, I didn't care for it as much, but it was more so because of subject matter.
Why is that?
It's a bit harder for me to get into like watch stuff like this when it comes to more like bodily substances, stuff like that. It's a put off for me.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely, but Legendary RQA does point out how the girls are still in their normal style, which is very important.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes how this is just how the world actually is. No, I loved seeing them come in and just be normal. Especially when we do see the style that they're drawn in change over the series. Like, we see them get a little bit more cartoony in one episode. I forget exactly when or why, but then we see them drawn as hot anime girls during their transformation sequence.
There's a couple other times when they're drawn like that, too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we see the very chibi bobblehead style in the ED. There's Transhomers, where we see them change a little bit. Fred Nasty gives some love to repent motherfuckers as a catchphrase, which, hell yeah, very good. Always satisfying to hear that. Alright. If nobody has anything else to say about Vomiting Point, we move on to Les Diaboliques. Or Les Diaboliques, as Panty says.
Yeah.
Panty and Stocking arrive at school to find a strict academic regime has been established by the mayor's daughters, the demon sisters Scanty and Knee-Socks, and are banished to the lowest class in school. Together with Brief, Panty and Stocking discover that Scanty and Knee-Socks are demons who are running a factory to produce an army of fake ghosts beneath the school. A destructive battle ensues with the Anarchy Sisters defeating the Daemon Sisters by destroying the stone that powers the factory. We introduce the antagonists. We've talked about them already.
Yeah. I think I could say now, which I don't think I said in the character section. I do find it somewhat interesting that the series somewhat reverts the relation between order and chaos, maybe, that is usually
Fair.
present between angels and demons in like actual Christian theology. Here it's the opposite, where the demons are the ones that like order and the angels are the kind of hedonistic freedom lovers.
No,
I don't know how much of that was intentional.
I do think Panty and Stocking are supposed to be outliers among angels. I mean, that's
they
the
were kicked out of
impression I
heaven.
get. Fire King?
They were kicked out of heaven.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
yeah, that's like the whole plot is like, I don't know what Stocking's issue was, but like Panty was like too sex crazy. They both never really went to school.
Yeah, that's true.
They were basically just like outliers. I think they got their personalities swapped when being created.
Yeah, it's obviously not completely consistent, but I feel like there are some other elements which kind of point in that direction. Like the ending where I think it's suggested that God is like, at least has a lower part that, how would I even put this? I mean, God is presented as wearing lingerie and,
One sec. I got the perfect response for this.
Is that supposed to be God at the end?
They do say mom, so kind of.
Fair enough.
So I think so.
Where...
I mean, even then, you get Garterbelt talking about how, if Corset's plans go through, everyone will have to obey the Demons' rules. So I think even, like, with the Garterbelt, it seems like there's some kind of adherence to freedom as important.
Well, Garterbelt's whole thing was that he wasn't willing to be controlled by other people.
I guess that's true.
That's why he became the whatever he is to begin with.
Yeah. But I guess we never really receive an answer as to how he became a priest. Because he has been wandering the earth since its Genesis.
It's true.
Pretty much.
Since before Genesis, we see him walking around with the dinosaurs.
He was sent back to like during the time of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Transhomers?
I would just also say for the Demonesses episode, I would say it's without a doubt has the best action scene in the whole show.
I'm not quite sure what's the best channel posted in, but I've been posting stuff in the anime channel.
Oh, sure.
Only that one thing I was saying, and then kind of just to follow up for that joke.
Oh yeah, that's really funny.
Oh, look.
For those wondering in chat, it's just Steve from American Dad saying, "No, look, God is a woman."
Yeah, that's the show.
Legendary says, "I love the reveal where they take off their undergarments and share them so they can both dual wield." Incredible. Absolutely fantastic mic drop moment. Transhomers, the Transformers episode.
Sure.
Oh, that's a great parable for anyone who's a big fan of Transformer.
Panty and Stocking's sibling feud escalates into an all-out war when they eat the cores of 2 warring alien robots and transform into robots themselves. When the alien robots decide to join forces to destroy the human race and merge into a ghost, Panty and Stocking are once again forced to work together to defeat the ghost. The art's good. Art's always good.
This
Perfect screw joke. Not... I don't know. I think it would have been better if they just said, we're going to go screw, and then left screen, went off screen, and it was never brought up again. They didn't have to make it explicit. They were just telling the same joke 3 or 4 times.
Well, I mean, part of that joke, too, is turns out he was a spy, but yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
fair.
Who was a spy?
The one who was haha screwing Panty.
I don't remember that detail, to be honest. But I think... Go ahead.
He was the very handsome not Autobot who Panty took off screen to fuck. And then she was like, I don't really recognize you. Who are you? And then he explodes. Because he was evil.
The heck? I feel like this user's a bot. Sorry, I'm not sure. I think I'm not. So out of left field.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Check the YouTube chat.
I see the YouTube chat.
Cat's last message. See that?
I don't see anyone named Cat.
Huh.
Cat Leone? Yeah, they just made their only chat, their only message right now for me.
Yeah.
You're probably getting them because you're a moderator?
I'm shocked you aren't getting them too. That's
that
a
would
weird
make sense.
oversight.
I mean, live chat, not top chat? No, I'm on live chat now and I'm not seeing anything. Cat Leone, are you a bot?
No, he responded, but like what you said about crypto just kind of out of left field. It's not like anything pro crypto, but it's just kind of weird.
Not seeing anything about crypto.
Me neither.
Anyway.
I just hid them. It's because I'm a mod. I don't mind. Sorry.
I would say the thing I found particularly weird about the Transformers episode was, I don't know, I mean, I get that, like, for most of this show you're supposed to suspend disbelief, but I really hope that, like, this would be the one episode where they would kind of hold back on the sex jokes, because we're talking about robots. I was kind of disappointed they didn't.
Nah, they're robots. Robots who sex.
I mean, you really can't. I mean, like, that's like 90% of Penny's character is sex, so you can't really get around that.
I mean, it would be funny if she became a robot and no longer had genitals and had to freak out about that. I think that's one way you could do it.
I feel like that has a lot more comedic potential than just acting like robots can have sex. That makes any sense as an idea.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense as an idea, but I think that's part of what makes it funny. That they don't address it, and the robots just fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway. The stripping. 7B. Garterbelt gets angry at Panty and Stocking for wasting money, so the sisters make a bet to raise $3 million in 3 days. Getting jobs proves difficult for them, so they resort to going to a casino run by Scanty and Nisox, who rig their games to ensure the Angels will lose. The Anarchy Sisters eventually run out of money, but by selling their clothes to onlookers, they manage to play long enough to break through the Demon Sisters' scheme and earn their $3 million. Cool. That's an episode.
That's an episode.
That's an episode.
Not even the craziest one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the more fan servicey ones. Which actually, I guess we haven't really mentioned, but I feel like for such a sexual show, there isn't actually that much fan service, I feel.
It's true. I mean, you've got the transformation sequence, and then aside from that, like, I'm not saying nobody would find the art style of Panty and Stocking sexy, but I don't think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it would be very hard to make effective fan service with this art style. Which is part of why the transformation sequence changes the art style.
Yeah, the transformation sequence, including, ironically enough, one of the times when they're robots, is like the closest you get to an actual.
The robot one was very funny.
Unfortunately, I've only saw it with. I think they only did it with Panty. You don't see a stocking version, which is kind of a lost joke, I guess. But yeah.
What was the one where they do the transformation sequence, but they like forget the words?
I think that was with the bank one. No, the cat. No, it wasn't the cashier one.
Yeah, with the wrath of heaven, take these two beautiful angels and.
Oh, I think it was. No, it wasn't that one.
I think we're gonna remember if we keep on reading.
Motherfucker. Episode 8A of the Dead. Panty and Stocking are holed up in a town where Scanty and Knee-Socks have unleashed a horde of zombies that are immune to the Anarchy Sisters' weapons until they turn on the Demon Sisters and turn the entire city into zombies.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that they just ended this with them all becoming zombies. Like, just a bad ending. There's no going back to the status quo. It's completely
absolutely inexplicable. Not. And I do love it when episodic series do this from time to time. When there's no regard for the canon, every now and then the main characters just lose and the world ends and something catastrophic happens and we need to just ignore it for the next episode.
Exactly.
The episode itself was, I don't want to say action-packed, but it was engaging. The new characters they introduced were very fun to see, and they felt like they fit very well in a zombie show. I like starting right in the middle of everything without having to explain.
Yeah.
I don't remember. How is it that the Demon Sisters become zombies in the end?
The Demon Sisters became it because the zombies kind of just turned on her. Because they said, they just went and bought like a cheap drugstore version of a zombie potion, and they didn't really have any way of controlling the zombies. So the zombies turned around and went after them after everyone in the city was taken care of.
Right.
Anyway, I enjoyed the episode. That's really all I have to say about it.
It's a good, solid episode. Fun to see them all walk out. I think they implied that they're eating Garterbelt at the end. Because he's not a zombie. They don't show him as a zombie. They just show them eating like what looks like chicken meat or something. Or dark meat, you could say.
Whoa, let's not say that. Hold on.
Oh, we're going to hear more about his dark meat in the 9th episode.
Episode 8B. One Angry Ghost. The disguised Demon Sisters put Panty and Stocking on trial for the murder of a friendly ghost with a monkey wearing a translation device on its head serving as the sisters' defense attorney. The sisters are found guilty and sentenced to electrocution, which jolts the monkey lawyer's translation device and grants him heightened intelligence, allowing them to prove the sisters' innocence and implicate the murdered ghost's wife as the true culprit.
I realized something after watching a bunch of, I didn't watch this before I watched Panty and Stocking, but I got into Lupin a couple of years ago, and I swear to God, the monkey looks like a really different versions of Lupin for some reason when he gets serious and he no longer needs the brain thing.
No, he found it. It reminded me of Mob Psycho when Regan and Mob have their sketch drawn very serious faces on the sepia tone paper. Yeah,
that too. His facial structure reminds me of Lupin. But yeah, it was this one we could probably go a bit more into, mainly just because I thought it was it's an interesting setup. demon that's actually a good guy who just generally likes humans and doesn't really have any issues.
Yeah,
He's just a
the
good boy
town's pet
demon
ghost.
dog. Yeah.
No, I do like that. I think they explored it exactly the perfect amount. Like, I don't think it needed an episode to itself. I don't think it needed half an episode. I think it just needed to be, like, mentioned in a one-off. There is a ghost, it's friendly, and the other ghosts hate it.
Yeah.
The next episode is one that I'm more interested in, unless somebody has something to talk about with One Angry Ghost.
I'm just the only way I could talk about is just like a ways to expand on the premise, but most of those kind of feel like they get contradicted from episode 9 part B. Go on to episode 9.
Sure. If Angels Wore Swimsuits is the volleyball episode, I'm guessing nobody has anything to say about the volleyball episode.
It's a volleyball episode. You
Yep.
get to see the starfish.
Mm-hmm. There is tentacle bondage, and the main characters are in swimsuits.
And a giant sperm whale.
They say that, but it wasn't a sperm whale.
Then the dub
Not
was
directly
wrong.
related, but do you think there's enough here for a proper video? I mean, I guess there's enough here, but I'm not going to make it. I don't really care about panty and stocking.
I mean, what would you even analyze it?
Like, you would have to analyze the show itself compared to other shows of its kind, because I do think that the show does a very good job at being the kind of show it's trying to be, whereas something like Pop Team Epic really doesn't.
Pop Team Epic is just throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
This seems a bit
like
more
they
focused.
aren't directly comparable. But what is another anime like Panty and Stocking?
Closest I could think of is, I guess, I'm thinking of like the closest comedy I could think of is Good Luck Girl, but that one mainly just makes fun of like Dragon Ball for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Premise of that is some girl basically has like the ability to be very lucky, and she steals it from other people indirectly.
Well, let's go to Mal
And like the god,
and see what Mal recommends for people who like Panty and Stocking.
That's a good idea.
My anime list.
Kill La Kill
and
Deadlies.
Oh, you're already there?
Yes, I already had the Panty and Stocking page open.
Oh, well, neat. Panty and Stocking.
I'm sure.
Recommendations. Kill La Kill, Fooly Cooly, Shimonetta, Space Dandy. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's recommending
Space Battleship
like
Tiramisu isn't on this list, but that does have a relatively similar feel.
Also, Matsu-san is recommended by someone.
Never seen it, but yeah, I did see that in the chat. Black Lagoon?
I guess because the guns.
Vulgar language, kick-ass females, awesome fight scenes. What in the world is Maho Shoujo Magical Destroyers?
Oh, isn't that a show that aired a couple of seasons ago?
There are 2 episodes out. It aired last year. Oh my goodness. This sounds horrendous. I have to see this. Okay.
Magical Destroyers?
Maho Shoujo Magical Destroyers.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see why they put it here, because Magical Destroyers is more plot focused, but it also has a lot of the same kind of zany vibes.
Mm-hmm. Gushing Over Magical Girls is on this list.
Makes sense. They're magical girl trench.
Yeah, I can see it. Gushing Over Magical Girls is porn first and then comedy, but
Space Patrol Luluko could probably be the most closest one, I would say, but it's also a Studio Trigger thing.
But yeah, I haven't seen much Space Dandy, but Space Dandy does seem like the closest thing to Panty and Stocking on this list.
I can
Space
believe
Dandy's
that.
an interesting thing. I saw that when it came out.
Mm. So, anyway, I think that a video about panty and stocking would have to be like analyzing the episodic formula of panty and stocking and seeing what they do with it and how just how it works structurally compared to other things that try to do other shows that try to do similar things.
You mean that are episodic in nature?
That are episodic, yeah, preferably episodic comedies. Like, I'm not going to compare Panty and Stocking to Mushishi.
What?
Although,
Crazy.
God, what a video. April Fool's is tomorrow.
You still have time?
I've still got time. God, I had the idea for an April Fool's video where I just, like, upload Explanation Point's Minecraft Let's Play episode 241. What's up, guys? Welcome back to ExPoint's Minecraft Let's Play. Today we're gonna go looking for some diamond because, as you know, we ran out last episode making the item sorter. So we're gonna go down into the mines and see what we can find, and then I just dig in a straight line until I find diamond in silence. However long
I found
it
another
takes.
one. I found one that could actually kind of fit
What is
for
it?
comparison. There's no way I could say the name, so I
Hey,
just put it
Tino.
in the chat. It's the second one. The
Put
first
it
one is
in
just there.
chat. Sakigake Cromarty High School.
Yeah,
I've heard of Cromarty High School.
I remember watching that because they had it on Hulu for some reason. And
Is it the
I-
irregular at Cromarty High School, or am I mixing up two things?
here's the link so you can see the.
Oh, I don't like this art style.
I don't really like
It's
it
just
either, but
called
they make
Cromarty
it
High
work.
School. The irregular at something else is a different show.
Yeah, I don't like that art style either, but it's pretty good. I still want to find out if they ever made that anime about the monkey rifting in the car thing.
Before we get too far off topic with Panty and Stocking, episode 9B, Ghost the Phantom of Dotten City, is one of my favorite episodes. Stocking falls in love with a repulsive and ill-mannered ghost and is willing to forsake her duties as an angel in order to be with him. Concerned for her sister, Panty attempts to kill the ghost, but the ghost proves to reciprocate Stocking's feelings and proposes to her. The moment Stocking accepts, however, the ghost finds himself at peace and ascends to heaven.
Yeah, to be entirely honest, I don't know if I was reading too deeply into it, the thing that this was some kind of message about, I don't know, girls liking douchebags.
I think the joke was just that Stocking has interesting tastes.
I mean, she's into bondage, and then she's into a guy who's like emotionally abusive. You could guess that she's a masochist to some extent.
Stocking is a very unhealthy service sub. Who needs to examine herself a little bit and learn to engage with these things in a way that does not hurt her.
Service what?
Service submissive.
Oh.
Anyway, I loved the dynamic of this episode with Panty actually showing that for as much as she and Stocking fight, she is willing to literally kill someone who hurts her. And I also...
she might have cut her out of the... We go ahead.
I just also love seeing Stocking be passionate about something, especially when the thing she is passionate about is harmful to her.
You could also kind of make that a comparable to her sugars.
Yeah, of course. I think this was a bit of a shocking episode because you didn't expect it to be so touching. I'm not sure I ever found it touching. I think the idea...
I mean, it's supposed to be...
Like,
go ahead.
The ending of this episode was, in a way, very sweet. But I don't think the idea of a character who is outwardly very abusive, but inwardly just doesn't know how to express his true feelings. I don't think that's a healthy thing to be portraying or a particularly funny trope.
Yeah, I don't really like that either.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the weird part about this episode is that I think the viewer is supposed to find it actually endearing
Yeah.
in some way.
It kind of is, but at the same time, it's like character is just completely unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
Like his most redeeming quality is at the end.
Let's say it like this, is that if this had 20 minutes to itself, and we actually got to... And this wasn't a ghost that was specifically made to be awful. If this were an actual person who had a backstory, who became this way for a reason, this could have been very touching.
But that's not the show.
That's not the show. I like the ending because I find the gut punch to stalking at the end to be very funny. I find the idea that that the engagement is on, and the fact that stalking gets to be happy now makes this ghost happy, and now he is gone forever because they love each other. That's very comedically tragic. But no, I don't find it emotional at all. Anyway, that is one of the episodes I enjoyed the most. Then we get to episode 10, which is... We've already talked about episode 10 to death.
I mean, we've talked at least about a part of it.
Do you want to talk about the
sure.
Vor episode, Tenek?
The Vor episode.
I don't want to talk about the Vor episode.
10A is inner brief, 10B is Chuck to the Future, and 10C is the music video.
Yeah, we already talked about the B part.
And the
C
music
part. Videos.
So, unless Tenek wants to talk about the Vor episode, I mean, be my guest.
So about the Vor episode, I find it interesting because I wouldn't say it's quite on the same level of bizarreness as the Booger episode, but I feel like there's also something particularly weird about both, briefs being, let's say, boy preggers, and also just the way Garterbelt acts the whole episode. I mean, the specific solution they try to find they ignore the possibility of just solving the whole problem by making him forcefully vomit the sisters, and instead he insists that he has to shit them out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird thing. My favorite part of that episode is just like the weird gag where he beats the shit out of Garterbelt because they're messing with his brain. Like, there's no other side effects other than they can control his punches. Apparently powerful cause. Like, moving his entire head one direction.
You're breaking up again.
Yeah, I couldn't quite understand what you're referring
to. I just found it funny how they were stabbing his brain and he was beating the shit out of Garterbelt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how brains work.
All right, episode 11.
Like, there's no other side effect.
11A is Once Upon a Time in Garterbelt. So we learn about Garterbelt's past life as a drug dealer, which, yeah,
quite an interesting backstory.
Yep. The sassy Bible-quoting black man used to sell drugs, and now he's a preacher because God forced him to live through all of history. And now he sexually assaults little boys.
That twist.
Well, to be entirely fair, they didn't say he didn't do that in his last life.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just, I find it very interesting that after he became a man of the cloth is the first instance we see of him molesting boys. Just like,
I mean, probably have
hey,
I
am all for riffing on the priesthood. I'm just saying, can you throw some more tropes in there? Was any of this true, or was
Like,
he an unreliable narrator? I don't
I
know why Garterbelt would lie in his own diary.
yeah.
That's the case. Like they break into the sisters break into his diary and start.
Like, you can argue that it's a fake diary that he put there as a decoy, but not supported in the text. 11B is Nothing to Room. It's the bottle episode. And
This is like, okay, you can go.
I just think it's such a bold decision to put a bottle episode in Panty and Stocking. Like, this is the entire show. The reason that this show exists is to draw these characters doing wacky and exciting things with very pretty animation, having high energy fight and chase scenes, and shooting guns and stripping. So to just put the camera in front of their couch and watch them order pizza, I mean, I give them props, but God, this was boring.
They had to cut costs somewhere.
Sure, they did that. They have already cut costs with I was gonna say with Chuck to the Future and Help We Are Angels, but I guess those were very well animated, to be fair. So ignore that.
To be entirely honest, I didn't see it as an animation thing. I perceive it entirely as trying to, cover uncharted territory as far as making anime goes. Because I mean, it's not really like a normal episode of anything. It's just such a, I don't know, bold creative decision, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think they
didn't
were doing
find it
both. Like,
interesting.
the team said, hey, we've got to save a little bit of money on our animation budget so that we can, because the finale is coming up. So we need to save some time and resources to spend more time on the finale. What can we do? So they said bottle episode. And I think that's brilliant. Just sit these two normally very hyperactive and energetic characters on the couch and have them order food. I think that is a great decision. The execution of it was terrible.
What is a bottle episode exactly?
A bottle episode is an
episode
episode with a very constrained setting. Like Fly in Breaking Bad is a bottle episode.
The other one I could think of is in one of the earlier Powerpuff Girl episodes. No, one of the later ones. They're in the closet just going through different adventures you've never seen, but for the most part, they're all just sitting there in the closet talking.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Any good bottle episodes to compare? Fly from Breaking Bad. I'm sure there are some, but I'm on the spot right now. Let me roll through my mouse, see if anything pops out at me. Well, let me actually search bottle episodes in anime and see if there are any that I remember. There's a Reddit thread here. It's talking about Wave Listen to Me, which I really need to go back to. There's one Long Horizon. The fridge episode in Cowboy Bebop, somebody's saying. I don't know if I agree with that one.
I don't remember that one at all.
The one where the mold monster grows out of the fridge?
Nope.
They're mentioning one in Gintama. Somebody says parent and child from ReZero. I haven't gotten to season 2 yet. Somebody mentions the Panty and Stocking episode.
Huh. The Gala.
Episode 4 of Odd Taxi? Odd Taxi episode list. 4 was Tanaka's Revolution. The one about the guy, the one where the guy gets involved in the gacha game. That's not a bottle episode. Let's see. Anime and manga on the TV tropes. page. That ought to do it. Somebody mentions the Endless 8 episodes from Haruhi Suzumiya.
I feel like that's the exact opposite.
I don't. I feel like it's sort of a bottle arc, if that makes sense.
Maybe because the writers don't have to put in a lot of effort, but like the animators still have to make 8 new episodes.
Except they don't, because they're mostly exactly the same.
But they play out the same. They don't look the same. Like they're not copy paste.
They do look the same a lot of the time, from what I remember.
I mean, but it's only in the sense that they share the same elements, not in the sense that you can actually use the same assets.
All right, moving outside of anime, we have a bunch of very good examples. We've got 10 Cloverfield Lane, 12 Angry Men, the first Saw movie. Let's see. Anything else on this list? If you've seen The Platform sucks, but it is a bottle movie. There is new animation every episode of The Endless 8, but it's sprinkled in with old animation too.
Well, I'd have to check that, but it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
Either way,
yes. The surrounding narrative of the recap episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where Hohenheim is by the fire.
I mean, I guess all recap episodes could be seen as bottle episodes.
Lithium, if I haven't seen the Endless 8 in a long time, if there's actually no reused animation in the entire Endless 8, that is insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what makes it insane, I think.
Yeah, but now 2 people are saying it to me, so I'm thinking that I might actually be wrong.
Yes.
That never happens.
You're infallible. Just like the Pope.
Anyway, point is, I think it was very bold to have a bottle episode in Panty and Stocking, but I think this was a very bad one. Because, like, what is the point of a bottle episode in a show? It's so that you can dig deep into the characters themselves, so that they can have conversations with each other, and you can explore their relationship or their personalities in a depth that you wouldn't be able to get to if the show were about anything other than them interacting. It's so you can put this big focus on these, whatever characters are in the bottle interacting with each other. But they don't do that. First off, because there's very little to say. Panty and Stocking are both very simple characters by design, and the show doesn't want to complicate them. Because if it does, then the show stops being what it is. It adds this non-Monster of the Week, non-episodic, sort of anti-fun element to it, because the show is very focused on lighthearted fun. And if it gets into these, like, complicated character interactions and emotions, then it's sort of running counter to what it's trying to do, right?
Yeah.
But I think that can be really good contrast to a show that's normally very fun and lighthearted.
Not to mention, I've seen times when they'll do that, when they'll make like a really comedy episode, but then they'll focus on like a more emotional one. Mm-hmm. But then they'll like kind of underbeat it at the end, like go back to comedy by the end of it, and then set the pace back to normal. But it's still like, oh, this is how the characters truly feel about stuff like that.
Yeah,
or something simple like that.
Mm-hmm. So there's absolutely potential for deep character development in these silly comedy shows. But they don't do that. So the bottle episode then has to have a very strong comedic premise. Like, there is one small thing that is happening in this constrained space that is really getting to our characters, and they have to solve it. Like, a classic episode is there's a fly in the room and they have to kill it. Breaking Bad. Codename Kids Next Door. So that's one way to have a whole bunch of I don't want to say pointless, a whole bunch of jokes that don't affect things in a broader way, if that makes sense, thrown into one episode in one very small setting, and still have these characters interact in and clash in comedic ways by dealing with whatever the crazy premise of the episode is.
And I guess the problem is there is no crazy premise. It's just them.
There's no crazy premise. There's no character interaction. There's just these two people sitting on the couch ordering a bunch of food. And the joke is that there is no joke. The joke is that they wasted 15 or 12 minutes of our time.
I think it's closer to 15, actually.
12, 15, something like that, minutes of our time on an episode that doesn't matter, of a show that is normally very high energy and frenetic. And I get that, and I appreciate it, but I just didn't feel like it worked at all.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the first episode of Seinfeld, like the pilot.
Not familiar.
That was boring to me.
Episode 12.
Yeah.
12A is the recap episode. How dare you? 12B is the one where the plot starts. Stalking goes back to heaven. Panty gets invited to the party by Brief.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the episode where we found out that Panty has the goal of having sex with 1,000 guys.
Yep.
Exactly 1,000.
Exactly 1,000, no more, no less. I love Yamada's first time.
If they actually did it.
Yep. So this and the next episode are the episodes that I should have the most to say about, and I just really don't. I think that the plot about Panty regaining her virginity and losing her powers is so strange.
Yeah, I think it is a way in which the series doesn't really have a totally consistent, I guess, idea of connecting angels to some virtues or vices.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's said to, be barred from heaven because she's a whore, but then also her hymen being restored makes her lose her powers,
mm-hmm.
and she needs to have sex to get them back.
It's true.
I don't know.
What's even weirder?
Go ahead.
What's even weirder about that too is it's like it has to be someone very specific, and that person apparently has a huge schlong. So why? It just like nothing really adds up.
The only thing I can think of is that Panty was she was kicked out of heaven because she liked sex too much. And she was given the ghost fighting powers to help her fight ghosts on Earth. And with her virginity restored, she can be a quote-unquote proper angel again. And so she doesn't need the powers anymore? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that's how you understood it? I mean,
that's
I think
the only way I can make it make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, but it feels like it's stretching.
For sure.
But we don't even know how she got the hymen device in her.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seemed like Garterbelt himself was surprised by it.
Angels. Magic god powers.
Magic god powers.
Magic god power.
Yeah, I just thought.
Anyway,
don't think
there's a demon. He wants to open a hell gate using Brief's penis. If he opens the hell gate, then the rule of hell will overwrite the freedom of heaven or something.
Yeah. The big dick monster.
The big dick monster, which kudos to them. for just going all out and making a dick monster at the end. I can appreciate that.
Very fitting.
I really hesitate to bring this up on camera, but it's like with Gushing Over Magical Girls. Did either of you wind up watching that?
Nope.
It's like with Gushing Over Magical Girls having a character who's just straight up 9 years old. Like, I don't respect what you're doing, but if you're gonna be the way that you are, at least you're owning it.
You think that's this show with the big dick monster? And,
yeah, just much less offensively.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything to say other than
says that Panty just hoed so much that it flipped over to being virtuous again.
But I mean, yeah, I mean that's what they tried to do at the start of episode 12. No, 13. I felt like it didn't work because it doesn't take that much for her to get back her old personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, her fake home gets destroyed and then she wants to go save Brief and have sex with him.
The opening of that episode was very cool. The most I laughed at this show was when the grandmother just got shot through the back of the head. I just thought that was incredibly deadpan and funny.
Yeah. Also, the guy fighting
the gag
with
in the Gushing Over Magical Girls manga was that Kurisu has never been looted in it. I've never read the manga. I just saw the anime, and they did definitely just straight up show her naked in the transformation sequence, which you can argue that not all nudity is sexual. Gushing Over Magical Girls is porn. I don't buy it.
I'll make sure when if I ever watch that, to watch it on a site that doesn't track.
Yeah, I will probably wind up making a video about it, but that show scares me. That happened anime only. Okay, well, I mean, I guess that's good to know. Let's see. Yeah, killing Garterbelt. I thought that was very nice. I loved watching Garterbelt's toy explode. Like, if people want to talk about the emotional impact of anything in this show, it's seeing Garterbelt portrayed as one of those ghost statues and then exploding. Like, that moment hits.
Yes. Totally.
Mm-hmm. And, like, yes, he comes back to life at the end, but I feel like in a show like this, where we aren't used to actions having consequences anyway, I don't feel like it takes away from much.
Now he comes back at the end, and then he blows up again at the end.
Yeah, sure. But again, nobody knows if that ending is canon or not.
We won't know till if they ever do a season.
Yep.
Look. If you're actually unironically asking about canonicity in this show, you're not watching it the right way. That's what I have to say.
No, you're right.
There's at least some structure to the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, to the canon. It is very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Chuck future sections all, like, they did a flashback, and then another flashback. It takes place during another episode.
I mean, I don't think we said this before, but he dies like several times every episode.
Sure, but we don't know what kind of creature Chuck is.
They do show him regrowing in the Chuck's future.
It's totally reasonable to think that Chucks are just able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't have anything else to say about episodes 12 or 13.
I think I said it before. I would have liked if like half the show was some kind of wacky plotline like this, or if at least had more like longer wacky plotlines.
If they set it up a little bit further in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be like a really funny.
all of this stuff about the descendant of the Hell's Monkey. I think hearing about the Hell's Monkey before episode 12 would have been nice, at least. Just dropping some of these names that we're going to need to know, even if they don't get into it at all. That would have been good.
Yeah. Would have helped.
Fire King?
Yeah, I don't have much to say.
Cool.
Like, the most I could really say is just the voice acting and the dub. It's how crazy some of the characters go.
Like, at this point, I've heard Monica Ryle in enough things that hearing her voice kind of takes me out of it. But as always, she did a great performance. Garterbelt's voice actor, like we said before, fantastic. I'm so sorry you had to do this. Yeah, all of the performances were great. Even Chuck's voice actor killed it. You laugh, but I'm right.
Incredible voice acting.
No, like it's
it's
understated and comedic. Like if somebody goes into the voice booth to play this character and they say, Chuck, 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 like you're not gonna laugh at that. But, like,
yeah.
Chuck, 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 Chuck. Like yeah, like there's an art to doing a character like Chuck too.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm. So, no, great delivery from all of the voice actors. The entire cast did a great job. The animation was fantastic. The comedy was what it was meant to be. So personally, my final rating on Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt, just from a personal enjoyment perspective, it's like a 4 or 5 out of 10. I hated this show. But doing the responsible thing and rating this show on the basis of what it is trying to do and how effectively it did that, it's a solid 8, 7.5, something like that. Probably a 7, closer to a 7 than an 8, because of the bottle episode, the inclusion of the music video, which was a bit random, even though I did appreciate it, and the inclusion of the recap in a 13-episode episodic series, I feel brings it closer to a 7 than an 8.
A crime.
But the high points of it were very high. The low points of it were very low.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would personally rate it like a 5, and I don't think I would distinguish between my enjoyment and the quality of the show. Well, okay, maybe if I took into consideration that was the goal, I would maybe bump it up to a 6 or 7 if I was feeling really generous. But I feel like the problem is, even if you approach it with that mindset that it's not trying to be any kind of normal show and that it's episodic instead, I would still think it's a problem that it's kind of repetitive on the sex stuff.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, if you want to say that the comedy was repetitive and it gets dull after a while, I'll buy that.
Yeah. I feel like if they were really going to go for crude adult humor, maybe they should have, I don't know, tried something more as well.
Well, they were going for crude adult humor marketed to 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or more the Japanese perception of crude adult humor marketed to Western kids or Western
Wow,
teenagers.
there's so many layers to what this show is trying to be.
It's actually rated 17 plus on Mal.
Yeah, it's almost an 8 on Mal.
Oh no, I'm talking about the age rating. It's 17 plus.
I see. Well, that, like, not to get into this in the Panty and Stocking Anime Club episode, but we've got like 40 minutes left. Like, that brings, sorry, Fire King, we'll get into this in a second. What would you rate Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt?
It's just kind of hard for a comedy, watching it more recently. And with my sense of comedy kind of maturing since I'm no longer a teenager. Probably like a high 7, mid 8.
Mm.
Mainly just because like it's good. I would love to see more of the characters. I just kind of wish there was more substance to it all. Kind of like the main missing point is like there's like nothing really grounding. Like the most I get out of the characters is more from the fan art, I guess.
Sure. No, like all of this brings up an interesting dilemma that I've had for my entire career, which is that the most objective way to rate a show out of 10 is to ask how well did it succeed at what it was trying to do. But the problem with that is that there are anime that are trying to be easily consumable shovelware that makes a little bit of money to keep the studio going. Like, you look at something like Isekai Cheat Magician, and it perfectly succeeds at being a bad show. It perfectly succeeds at being a 5 out of 10 show that makes the studio a little bit of money and rides the isekai wave to moderate financial success. Is Isekai Cheat Magician then a 10 out of 10? Eromanga Sensei perfectly succeeds at being a pedophilic fetish show. Is it then a 10 out of 10?
Yes.
No, of course not. That's absurd.
Oh, you just don't get it.
I just don't get it. You're right. I don't understand the merits of Eromanga Sensei. You're right.
We should do that on Anime Club. Then we'll be able to get into it.
Oh, like, there... Ages ago, Digi did this series where... I don't know what Digi's gender identity is now. I know that they've gone through some shit, but... where they went through Eromanga Sensei with a friend of theirs, and they just commented live on every episode, and it was some of the funniest shit I had ever seen at the time. Like,
yeah,
that's why you add the dimension of the greatness of the goal it's trying to achieve. Sure, but who is to determine that? Like, why is it my job to add to be the moral arbiter of the goal of art? Like, not to question my abilities as a random YouTube asshole, but it's not my job to determine what art should be supposed to be doing. Maybe if you're only rating a show in its particular category, sure, but that still makes Eromanga Sensei a 10 out of 10. That makes Gushing Over Magical Girls a 10 out of 10. And that seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah, because they're trashy shows.
Yeah, and that makes what? Made in Abyss, like, closer to an 8? Like, there are great shows that are not best in show in their category. Like, what? Steins Gate? What does Steins Gate get rated if you are only comparing it to other shows in its category?
Honestly, that is a good challenge. Mainly because it's hard to determine stuff like that, too.
Yeah, like, let's say you rate Steins Gate a 10 out of 10. That then means it has the same rating as Isekai Cheat Magician. You want an objective rating system for art. I mean, personally, I would love that. But like,
art is subjective.
No, it just means, like, we have services like Mal that give people the opportunity to rate art out of 10. How do you engage with that? What is the way you are supposed to engage with that? Especially, like, for most people, this doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. For me, it matters. Because my job is media analysis. My job is determining what something does well, how it does it, and comparing it to other things that do similar things. It's very important that I have a rating system for art that does not involve my personal enjoyment. Like, I don't consider myself a critic, but it's the same thing for how critics can't look at a film and just say, did I enjoy this? Did I not enjoy this? Because their job is recommending things to others, right? And not everyone is going to like the same things they do. A critic has to look at a film and say, taking myself out of the equation, what does this film do? What is it trying to do? And how well does it do those things? I'm just saying that when you quantify those things as a score out of 10, you get some pretty absurd results. Gushing over magical girls is unironically interesting. I stayed for the plot even when I came looking for other things. I'm going to assume that those other things you were looking for were a show to laugh at, which is exactly what I was looking for when I went into Gushing Over Magical Girls. And I did laugh at it a lot. But then I also found myself laughing with it. And I kept watching it. And you're right. It was distressingly interesting. Like, the next video I release is going to be the ethical way to engage with problematic media, which was inspired by Gushing Over Magical Girls, of course, because Gushing Over Magical Girls is nothing if not problematic in itself. But no, like, you have shows that are trying to do things like Gate, for example. I mentioned Gate in the new script. Gate is trying to be military propaganda for the JSDF. And I've never seen Gate, but let's assume it does an excellent job at portraying the JSDF as this great thing that you want to be involved with. Does that make Gate a 10 out of 10? Is America's Army a 10 out of 10 video game?
That's an actual video game?
America's Army was a video game that was funded by the United States military as propaganda. Because they saw games like Call of Duty, and they said, we need to have a game like this that glorifies the military so that people join. So that gamers who are into FPS games actually want to join the military.
Well, then, that causes a problem, because I'm not sure how many other games were made for my pride. How many other games were made for doing the military? But I understand your point you're making, though.
Right, like, if America's Army is trying to be military propaganda, and I've never played America's Army, I don't know how well it does, but let's say it's very good at that. Do we then rate America's Army a 10 out of 10 video game? No, of course not. But, like, I personally, as a professional media analyst, run into an issue that viewers who do not do this as their job do not run into, which is the issue of objectivity in an inherently subjective field. Like, for people who are interested in this more objective measure of art, where is the line? What is that measure? And you get into these really weird situations. Which, to bring everything back home, Panty and Stocking invites, because like I said, I personally hated this show. Like, I will never watch it again. If a season 2 comes out, I would be interested in reading the Wikipedia article just to see what they do with it. But I am never going to engage with this show again in my life. I hated it. But it would be ridiculous of me to say this is a bad show. It's a show that does not appeal to me. I don't think it would appeal to most people over, like, 25 very much. But I think it does things in a way that is novel. I think it provides something that no other show really provides in exactly the same way. At least no other anime. Like, obviously it's heavily Western inspired. You've got stuff like Teen Titans Go, seems like it would be similar to this. Just obviously less raunchy.
It's not.
Okay, sorry, I've never seen it. But you understand what I'm saying. There are more Western shows that are similar to this.
Yeah, see some episodes of Billy and Mandy.
Billy and Mandy, really sure.
Some episodes. I would say I agree with you with your Kids Next Door reference, but more meant for kids.
Yeah,
both of those are
more hyperactive kind of Kids Next Door style thing. Legendary calls K-On! Bad all the time, though I have shifted to saying mid. Yeah, I agree. I don't find K-On! All that good. Like, I see people saying all the time that K-On! Was revolutionary for its time, but now that the genre has evolved past K-On! And, like, I get that. I wasn't around at the time. I can only look at what it is now. A synthetic problem of what constitutes quality in art is the problem a definition of what art is. Oh, a classic Tenek-Tino discussion. I look like other YouTuber from Russia. Thanks. That sounds like one handsome dude. Yeah, it's not really a question of what is art, it's what makes art good. What makes good art. And, like, for most people, there doesn't have to be a distinction between what is good and what do I like. But for me, there does. For me and other people in my line of work, there does have to be that distinction. So it's a question I have to think about all the time, and one that I find to be very interesting.
Yeah, and important.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Panty and Stocking, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 or so. It's got a 7.45 on Mal. And I mean, obviously, I think that's a little bit high, especially considering that that's an average rating. So a lot of people are rating this an 8 or a 9 or a 10, which is absurd to me. I've only ever legitimately rated one show a 10 out of 10. I've given Oron an honorary 10 on Mal just because I couldn't bear the thought of rating it anything lower. But I would actually put it at like a 8.5. The only show I have ever actually rated a 10 out of 10 on Mal is Tom, Toe, Jerry. Which is 2 Japanese Tom and Jerry shorts, which are less than a minute long each. They are very charming, and they do not last long enough to do anything wrong.
Unbelievable.
I know, right? I hate it.
I'm still gonna stick with what I said for my rating.
Which was
I'm gonna
high 7, mid
7
to mid at 8.
Sure. Tenek.
What, just about my rating?
Yeah.
Or about something else I want to say? Oh, I think I just wanted to say that I'm gonna find your next favorite anime. I'm gonna post it in the Discord chat.
Is that so?
Yes.
Please share. We're all waiting with bated breath.
If it's one season, you could recommend it for the next stream.
Oh, no. It's not even a minute long. This is kind of hard to find.
Tom Tojeri is not my favorite anime. It's just the only one I've ever seen that did nothing wrong. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start looking for something to recommend for next time. There is no theme. That's why I had Mal open in the first place. Let's check my plan to watch list.
I got like 3 recommendations. So,
mm-hmm.
And they aren't like, well, other than one, they aren't that too long. If you want close to 12 episodes.
Oh, is Flip Flappers like this? That's on my plan to watch. Neo, how dare you advertise another YouTuber in my stream? I'm so upset right now.
Okay, I found it. Should I post it in the YouTube chat as well?
Yeah, why not?
There. Masterpiece.
I've already recommended Scum's Wish. Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha? Narutaru. Natsume's Book of Friends is really long. Dorohedoro?
You're trying to pick something now?
Yeah, I'm just looking at stuff I could recommend for next time.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go with Oshinoko again.
Alright. I think that's about enough time between recommendations.
checking something. Okay. Could I see what your two? What were the names of your guys' again, or
I think I'm gonna go with Tanaka-kun is always listless.
I just picked Oshinoko Fire King. I'm gonna post it anyway.
Yeah, I'll just post that in the Discord chat.
Okay, I just want to make sure, like, check out with what I have. Would probably be something fitting.
Listless.
Mm-hmm.
List in what
Okay,
sense?
Listless
those
means inattentive, sort of airheaded, dreamy,
Oh,
or without direction. Directionless.
is this a slice of life show? Oh,
I
it
think
is a
it's more
slice
of an
life.
Iyashige. So like a very, very slow slice of life show. I've just heard it recommended a lot. What'd you say, Fire King?
So I don't push it too luck. I'll just go with Good Luck Girl.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's something that fits at least in the genre versus some of my other options, which are a bit more fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I have for suggestion would be from, I believe, the same people who did Skate the Infinity.
All right,
but that one's not done yet. So
okay, gotta wait till it's done.
Suggest that one. Just 2 more episodes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so our recommendations for next time are going to be Oshinoko, Tanaka-kun is always listless, Good Luck Girl, and if we're gonna let Scrub do one because she was here in the chat and it is Trans Day of Visibility, Twinkle Nora Rock Me. We'll discuss that.
Wow, this is nepotism.
We'll discuss it in the Discord. All right. Chat, thank you very much for coming to discuss the series with us. I appreciate having each and every one of you here. If you would like to join our Discord call for next month's Anime Club, you can go to patreon.com/explanationpoint to find out how. There is a link in the description. And also, I wanted to run something by you if anyone in chat has opinions. I was thinking of a new Patreon reward video something, where every quarter, so 4 times a year, I would just go through and read all of the worst and strangest comments I've gotten on everything I released that quarter. Just go through them, share them, talk. Because, man, I get some doozies every now and then. Plus, that would encourage me to read comments more, which I do tend to avoid for mental health reasons, but it's not that big a deal. And that would be available, I think, just to everyone. Might even just post it on Patreon without making anybody pay for it. So if that's something people would be interested in, please let me know.
Yeah. Good idea.
Good idea. All right. I'll think about it a bit more. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Go to patreon.com/explanationpoint to support the channel because I do more than appreciate it. I do depend on it. Thank you all for coming. I hope you all enjoyed your experience with Panty and Stocking as much as I didn't. And I will see you all next time. Gooby, I'll miss you.
Bye.
Bye. Gooby.
Bye-bye.
End stream.